There are a lot of practice CLEP tests out there, but some are great and some are not so great. So I went and found all of the major ones, signed up for every single one of them, took all of them, and now I'm going to tell you what the best practice CLEP tests are. First off, there are a lot that claim to be practice tests, but only have like 10 questions. So I removed all that were not full length because I think that's important for you to get a knowledge of like exactly where your skills are at. The first one was free CLEP prep, and I'm actually really impressed by this. It's this random guy named Justin who took a bunch of CLEP tests, and he's kind of an aficionado. And so he started making actual free practice CLEP tests for everybody. He doesn't have many practice tests, but the one that I took, English Literature, I got 61% on, and that was the lowest score I got in any of these, and I tend to trust more the practice tests that give me a low score because it means that they're harder. At the same time, some of the questions felt kind of subjective, and so I wasn't really sure what to make of that. Something that I really liked was that he had a minimum recommended passing score. So basically, if you score X on his practice CLEP test, he says you'll probably be able to pass the actual CLEP. Best of all, these are all completely free, so I definitely recommend using free CLEP prep, even if you're not going to be able to use it for very many tests. The first one that I tried was the official CLEP study guide, and this one is the best bang for your buck because it only costs $25, but you get a single free practice CLEP test for every single CLEP test. Of course, it's in a book, so when you take the practice test, you have to score it yourself, and there's not really explanations of the answers. But it is really reassuring to be taking a practice CLEP test from the company that you're actually going to take the CLEP test from. Apart from free CLEP prep, every single practice test I took was the American Literature CLEP, and for this one, I got 69%, one of my highest scores. The one that I was the least impressed with wasn't even really their fault. Exam.IM basically takes most of the questions and a couple others from the CLEP study guide and puts them into a digital format. But each CLEP costs $15 to get the practice test for, which means that financially, when you could just get the CLEP study guide, it's not really worth it. Plus, the way that it works, it's really more like flashcards. And there are companies that do flashcards better, and there are companies that do practice tests better. So I don't really recommend Exam.IM. The second to last CLEP practice test is REA, and they basically create textbooks for the CLEP exams, and then typically they'll also have for sale online or in the textbook 2 study practice tests. So I went ahead and got the American Literature one, and I actually got a 67%. I'm not really sure how because some of those questions were just insanely difficult. Something that I really liked about them is that they showed me what areas I was strong on and what areas I was weak on based on the questions that I got right. So, I apparently know a lot about the colonial and early national period, but I need to work a little bit more on everything else. And they did have really solid explanations for every question that I got wrong about why I got it wrong, which is really helpful when you're studying. What I didn't like was the purchasing process. The whole thing felt kind of buggy. First, I had to pay for the digital thing, even though it kind of looked like they were more set up for purchasing physical products. And then I had to wait for an email to come, and then I had to wait for another email to come, and they gave me a code to log in with. And that code didn't work the first time, so I had to try a few more times, and eventually it worked. And once I got in, everything was smooth sailing, but the whole process made me nervous that I was going to have to spend a bunch of time on the phone with support. Overall, it costs $13. You get 2 full-length practice tests, 1 other diagnostic test, and while I do recommend it, I do think that there are a couple of other items on this list that do a slightly better job. And the one that I liked the best, but that also costs the most, is Peterson's. They charge $49 a month, though if you pay in bulk like 3 or 6 months, then it costs less. And the nice thing here is that when you pay that subscription fee, you get access to all of their practice CLEP tests. And they typically have 3 full-length, well-explained practice CLEP tests for every subject. Well, all except for the German CLEP test. I got a 69% on my American Literature practice CLEP test with them. The process, the purchasing process, the testing process, everything felt really well designed and very modern and very trustworthy. And it was every bit as good as I remember it being when I was using it to CLEP my way through college. The nice thing too is that if you're trying to do a ton of CLEP tests, Peterson's is solid because you just pay a monthly subscription fee, and so you're not paying for every individual practice test, you just get them all. So, Which of all of these is the best? First off, I'm biased towards the one that I got the lowest score on, and of all the American Literature CLEP tests that I took, honestly, my score was very similar on everything. So I was surprised by that and can't really make a definitive judgment there. So it came down to price and user experience. I mean, getting the CLEP study guide is a no-brainer. And if I was trying to do all these CLEPs at once, I think I'd probably go for Peterson's. But at the same time, I do know that like if I am having a really hard time with studying for a CLEP test, I want more practice tests. And so then I think then I would dip into REA. And of course, there's no reason not to use free CLEP prep when they do have a practice test available for the one that you want to do. Lots of great practice tests. At the end of the day, though, you have to decide what's best for you. What can you afford? What is important to you? And then, start taking some of the practice test exams, and you'll find out which ones you like to work with better, or which ones you get lower scores on, and, thus feel more confident when it's time to actually take the test. I hope that this video has been helpful to you in trying to make that decision about which ones to invest in. And if you're ever looking for help deciding which CLEP exams will fit your degree, what major will fit your career, and what college will help you make all of that happen, I am happy to do a personal consultation with you. Link is down below. Thank you for watching, and happy hacking.